Going on YouTube, Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be releasing our Regulation I rental teams. Originally, we made a post and we said we were going to release 8, but thanks to some other viewers who have reached out, we are actually able to make 10 rental teams. Yes, that is correct, 10 rental teams. That is the most teams that we have ever provided here on the channel. And again, you know, I only have so many slots. I can only make so many Calyrex teams. So for those who have been able to help us out, we thank them very much. We'll shout them out individually as we go through the teams here. But 10 rentals to get you started for Regulation I. If you haven't done so already, if you need another team to kind of pick up and see where the format is and how to pilot the format, we can help you out here with at least one of these teams, hopefully. So without further ado, we're going to go through the rentals. We'll also go through the Pokepaste as normal. We'll explain our spreads. And we'll go a little bit of how to play the team a little bit, so this way you get an idea of how to use it before you even get to it. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and go through the rentals, and starting here with the first one. So here's our first team and our first dual restricted pairing, and it is going to be Miraidon and Calyrex Ice Rider. So the reason why both of these work relatively well is because if you consider some of the Pokemon that Calyrex has trouble dealing with, it's usually those bulky water types or just water types in general, or even like Terra Waters, you know, coming from like an Iron Hands or a Farigiraf. So to do that, you need like a strong electric type or even a strong grass type for you. So Miraidon can take care of stuff like, you know, Urshifus, Kyogres, you know, Terra Water Farigirafs, just like what we have on this team here. And then at the same time, you know, the Calyrex is also pretty strong into the mirror matchup, especially against like another Miraidon team where you kind of just force them to Terra. Otherwise, they're just going to die to a Glacial Lance, right? So pretty good combination here. And then you add, of course, the Iron Hands, which can do well both with Miraidon and Calyrex, because you have Fake Out Pressure to help you set up the Trick Room turn 1. And then you also have a Court Drive attack boost, you know, when you're paired with the Miraidon here. So also pretty good pairing there. And then you have Grimmsnarl here, which can lead into like a lot of different games, especially where you can just set up screens and, you know, just go for a lot of bulk and then ruin a lot of damage calcs. And the way I like to play Grimmsnarl, especially in like a restricted format, just like legendary formats in general, is there is so much damage being passed around right now, you know, especially when you have not one but 2 Ubers. So, you know, one way to really deal with that is to, you know, set up screens so you can kind of mitigate the damage a little bit. So this way you can take those hits, survive, and then deal damage right back and potentially KO them because they can't KO you, right? So something like Grimmsnarl that can give you speed control is also really good. Again, Thunder Wave is really strong here, and you can't switch out and reset your speed drops with something like Icy Wind. So Thunder Wave, the paralysis stays with you, and then, you know, 1 paralysis hacks is all you need to win you a game, right? You get so much momentum off of that. And then Foul Play, it's just a really good, strong attack into, you know, other Calyrexes, Shadow Riders too, especially after an Ice Rider has gotten like a +1 or +2 boost already. Like Foul Play is just going to just already destroy that altogether, right? So you can even just lead, you know, Grimmsnarl, Miraidon, you know, set up screens, you know, maybe Volt Switch out and go into your Calyrex after that. And then now you can set up Trick Room behind those screens if you really want to. Another good Pokemon here is the Ogerpon. You know, and again, just another strong damage dealer that can also provide redirection support. So if you want, you can also do Ogerpon, you know, follow me Trick Room with the Calyrex. Or you could do, you know, Ogerpon into the Rillaboom games, because again, one way to really mitigate damage against Miraidon is to bring something like a Rillaboom, right? But then that just falls into the mercy of the Ogerpon, right? Because now the Grassy Terrain is boosting your own Wood Hammer damage, and then you can deal damage right back into the Rillaboom with something like Ivy Cudgel. And then a Terra Fire also is also pretty good into like another Calyrex Ice Rider. So, you know, it's just another very, very good, solid physical attacker on your team that can play in both modes, whether it be Trick Room or even the faster mode, right? Speaking of Trick Room mode here, now you have the Farigiraf here that can also set up Trick Room besides the Calyrex. You know, with the Farigiraf, you know, with the Armor Tail, you have a Choice Specs Miraidon, so it's a very easy fake out target, very easy to, you know, click priority moves, but then you can just bring in Farigiraf, and that kind of just takes that away altogether. You also have Helping Hand, so this way you can, you know, boost Miraidon's damage, Calyrex damage, Iron Hands' damage, right? If you have to do that. So very easily, you could even just do like Miraidon Farigiraf leads, you know, Volt Switch, set up Trick Room, bring in the Iron Hands or even the Calyrex, and then just go from there, right? So lots of different modes that you can play with this, depending on the lead, depending on the matchup. But overall, it's pretty consistent, very solid. You have a lot of tools going for you. You have speed control, you know, you have Trick Room and Thunder Wave. You have fake out pressure, and you have screens. So you have a lot of ways to really mitigate damage, and you have redirection support too. So besides intimidate, you have a lot going for you on this type of team here. So I like it a lot. So hopefully you have some success with this one as well. But now let's go ahead and let's show you the Pokepaste for this Miraidon Calyrex team. Alright, so here are EV spreads here. So I was mixing and matching a lot of different spreads here just because, it is early format, and I was trying to decide what would be pretty good right now for the first month of the format here, and this is what I came up with. So Miraidon, I decided to go Timid here. Now, of course, you're going to lose out on damage because, you are not Modest. But at the very least, it helps you a little bit more with some of the speed ties that you might be facing against other Miraidons. So this way, even if they are, max speed Modest, you can outspeed them. And if they outspeed you, then you know for a fact that they beat you in a speed tie and they are timid there. So, but at the very least, you can always outspeed the Modest ones. And I felt like that was already a win for our Miraidon in this case. We have enough damage coming around here, and we have enough bulk here, so, I felt like it was still, okay with our Timid Miraidon here. The Calyrex here, we're just hitting the benchmark in the Adamant attack stat, and a little bit of speed just for potential speed ties, especially against, other Iron Hands, especially the Adamant ones, if they're not Brave as well. But at the very least, 252 HP felt strong and solid for an Ice Rider here. But again, Terra Water, that's also, pretty good against something like another Ogerpon, going for the Ivy Cudgel, and also Surging Strike to Urshifu with something like Chenpao in the field. I felt like just Terra Water is pretty solid. Fire is also pretty good too, but at least for this team, I feel like Water was okay. The Grimmsnarl, Calcare, we are careful natured. We are 116 investment in the Spidef. That's enough to live Flutter Mane Moonblast without needing Light Screen, which I felt like was pretty good there. And then after that, just a ton of HP, obviously. 1 point in the attack stat. You don't really need attack when you're just clicking Foul Play. And a little bit of speed, potential speed ties with other Grimmsnarl, or maybe something like Incineroar for that matter. If you have to, go first with a Foul Play. Either way, just a tiny bit of speed investment just makes all that difference there. The Iron Hands, this was also pretty easy. Again, just Brave Nature, 0 speed. 84 HP, that's just for Rillaboom optimal terrain recovery, just in case they bring in the Rillaboom against you. Although it would be pretty hard to do, especially when you have a Calyrex and a Heart Flame waiting. But again, if they do want to go for that, we have that option as well there. The rest is just pretty much max out the special defense here, and then we did have some EVs left over even after we went for the Adamant 156 bump. So we just dumped the rest more into the attack stat, just a little bit more. Getting it to a stat of 200 with Core Drive is pretty solid altogether. And the Ogerpon Heart Flame here, so I settled on this one. It is a slower Ogerpon, but that's because, look, we've got screens, we've got Trick Room, we don't really have Tailwind here, so I felt like there wasn't really a need to go super fast here. Let's just be, hard hitting, Adamant 156, going for the second bump there, and then having a ton of bulk with our HP and some defense and speed up there, especially with screens, it can do a lot here. So what I was going for here was you can survive the Urshifu Terra Water Surging Strikes, which is also pretty good if you can survive that already. And then it's a 3-hit KO from the Calyrex Ice Rider going for high horsepower. And then at the same time, if you have Light Screen up, you can survive Kyogre, Mystic Water, Water Spout, and the Rain, which is kind of insane. I live that. And then Life Orb Landorus, you can also live that Modest 116 though, so just be aware of that. But even if it's max Modest, you can still get a very favorable roll there. The speed investment, at the very least, I just wanted to survive Pelipper, Timid Pelipper stuff and speed creep those mons. So, 12 speed investment is really all I needed. But after that, again, it's just a very, very bulky Ogerpon for those calcs there. The Furgraph here, Bold Nature, 236 HP. 228 HP investment with 180 defense there. And of course, Terra Water is also for something like Surging Strikes Urshifu there. But even without it, you can still survive it anyway. Especially if they have a Chenpao in the field. So Chenpao, Urshifu, Terra Water, Surging Strikes, you live it. And then you can also live... this was actually a pretty good calc here. So you can also live Rillaboom, Adamant 252 Woodhammer in grassy terrain, as long as you already had the Electric Seed boost first. So if you had that already, then even if Rillaboom has its terrain, it goes for Woodhammer, while your Terra Water, you still live that anyway. So when I had a little bit less investment, I was just almost on the breaking point of surviving there. So I figured, let me just add a little bit more points there and just try and live it, and then, and then end up being really, really huge. So that's the main calc there. And like I said, we mentioned the Urshifu calc. And also for what it's worth, Calyrex High Horsepower is also a 3-hit KO there, right? So yeah. Anyway, that's team number 1 there. So hopefully you get some good ideas and get some good play with Miraidon Calyrex. But let's move on to team number 2. Alright, coming up here on team number 2, this is our Calyrex Shadow Rider Koraidon team. Shoutouts to Yomasi for making the rental for us for this one. So with this one, I wanted to play this one a little bit faster and a little bit more aggressive, hence the reason why we have Whimsicott and even Indeedee here. So at the very least here, we have weather control, we have speed control, and we have terrain control there. All very important things in Regulation I here. So again, the whole idea with Calyrex and Koraidon here is you have a strong fighting type paired with a ghost type, which is really good because they both balance each other very well. Because again, with Calyrex, your Astral Barrage and even just your typing, you're very weak to dark types altogether. So Koraidon, a fighting type, can come in and click the fighting move against a dark type, and it kind of handles it for it, right? So from here, the Sun duo, the Sun boys here, as I like to call it, you have at least Chiyu here and then the Brute Bonnet. Sometimes you'll see Fluttermane on teams like this, but I didn't really want to double up on the ghost types, but we did do that for another team there, so stay tuned for that. But at the very least, with this Calyrex here, we're going for Expanding Force because we have the Indeedee combo here, so you can even just lead Calyrex Indeedee if you know that you're going to be faster, and then just click the Expanding Force button for a little bit more for boosted damage, you know, with terrain. And then Indeedee is also really good in the Miraidon games because, again, you can always just change terrain against it. You have the Chiyu here, which is really good with Koraidon and the Calyrex, right? Because, again, you're going to enjoy the weather from the sun, do boosted fire damage, and at the same time, you can make your own Calyrex do more damage because of Beads of Ruin. And it's also pretty good into the mirror matchup because, again, you can Snarl another Calyrex, you can Snarl Lunala's running around, you can Dark Pulse them and one-shot them anyway, but, you know, Snarl and or a Dark move is really, really strong. And then, of course, the boosted fire damage in the sun is always a plus here. With the Whimsicott here, so Moonblast, Tailwind, Encore, and then I added this tech move here with Cotton Spore. Just be careful not to use that, you know, in your Indeedee terrain, obviously, but Cotton Spore is pretty good into the mirror matchup because, again, if they go for Tailwind and you go for Tailwind, the winner is going to be you because next year you can just go for Cotton Spore, or you can just go for Cotton Spore immediately and then just, you know, go from there, right? So I kind of like that move on Whimsicott here. And then after this, you know, you have Koraidon with the Clear Amulet. That's going to be useful into like the mirrors. For a while, I was using like Life Orb Koraidon and it was very, very strong, and it still is, right? But Clear Amulet just helps you get around the Fluttermane Icy Winds that are running around, you know, to try and get the advantage over you. So I felt like that was really useful. And then at the same time, you can just go for Flame Charge into those Fluttermanes, and then you're gonna win after that, right? Because you're not gonna take any speed drops for that matter. So from here, Brute Bonnet, also very, very solid Trick Room pick. But also at the same time, it's a good redirector for a lot of different things. And then you have Seed Bomb and Sucker Punch for nice damage there, especially to like stuff like Kyogre or Urshifus for that matter. And then you always have the Spore Pressure that you can click in Trick Room if you do go with it with your Indeedee. But also, you know, you can just you can click Spore, right? In Miraidon games, what you have to do is just switch in your Indeedee first, change terrain, then you can Spore into their slots. So that's how you have to play it a little bit. But then after that, you know, just boosted Sucker Punch, you know, because again, you are a Dark type that can also pin the Calyrexes for that matter. So it's very useful into that. The Dark typing, of course, is going to help you resist the Astral Barrage stuff. And then at the same time, you do have redirection here with Rage Powder. So you have two redirectors, right? You have the Indeedee and you have the Brute Bonnet there that can help you out in a lot of different cases. So, you know, and then of course the Calyrex here with Substitute. I added that especially just because, you know, in some Trick Room games, you can always just go for Substitute on their opening turn. If they do decide to click Trick Room, then you can click Protect. So then you can stall out those Trick Room turns already, you know, 2 turns gone. And then, you know, just go from there. Now, of course, with you only having 2 spread moves, you are a little bit more susceptible to the Wide Guard, but all you have to do is just remove the Wide Guard user. So if it is a Zamazenta or a Lunala, this is where something like Chiyu and Brute Bonnet can come into play and really hamper those ideas there. Okay, so that's the team right there. So now let's show you the Pokepaste and let's show you the EVs. Alright, so these EVs are a little bit more simplistic because, again, it is a pretty hyper-offensive team. The Koraidon is a Jolly set still. The Calyrex, that little bit of HP is just for a little bit of Life Orb optimization. Of course, still having max speed, just for, again, the Calyrex Shadow Rider speed ties. Indeedee, relaxed nature, you know, 252, It's pretty standard there. Same thing with the Chiyu Choice Scarf mod is 252, 252. You can also go with the 116 variant with 132 HP. That's going to let you survive Surging Strikes in the sun. But at least for this team, I decided not to do that, and I just go for the modest 252, 252 set there. The Brute Bonnet, now with the Brute Bonnet, 252, 196 defense, Impish Nature, what that does is it lets you at least survive the Urshifu Close Combat Terra Stellar, right? So that's pretty good, but ultimately it also just lets you live a Zamazenta Body Press, right? This doesn't even need Sun, right? So if it is just max Impish Zamazenta clicking Body Press, you live that anyway. So I felt like that was a pretty good calc to go for. And then the Calyrex Ice Riders, of course, with Glacial Lance, you can live +1 Calyrex Glacial Lance if you have the Proto Boost, right? And even if you're not Terra Water. So use that with what you will there. And then, of course, the Whimsicott is just a timid 252, 252 set there. All right, so that's it. Let's go into rental number 3. Rental number 3 is as standard of a Calyrex Shadow Rider Zamazenta team as it gets. Again, this is one of the premier duos, still the same concept as Koraidon and Calyrex, or even Koraidon and Lunala, where you have a strong fighting type paired with a ghost type to help you counterattack the dark types that want to come into the strong ghost type user, right? Now, the main decision that people are making here is, do you put the Life Orb on the Chenpao and go with stuff like Ice Shard, and then do you just go Sash Calyrex just to help you a little bit more into the mirror? You can do either or, right? But for this, we opted to just keep the Life Orb on the Calyrex and then put the Sash on the Chenpao there. But again, to each their own. It just depends on how you want to play the team. But the other options are pretty standard. You know what you're getting with Zamazenta, with Body Press, Heavy Slam, Wide Guard, Protect. I have seen Terra Ghost on these Zamazentas, again, just to help you with against the fighting type attack from the Koraidons, or even Urshifus for that matter. But I also like Terra Dragon just for the fire resist, and then at the same time neutralize the ground weakness too. But to each their own, right? I've also even seen Terra Grass just to get around Amoonguss. But the Tornadus Urshifu combination here, of course, you have Weather Control with Rain Dance, and Urshifu doing a ton of damage, in the rain. This is going to be useful against those Koraidon teams because, again, you can change the weather, take away the Flutter Mane speed boost, and then just go for the Surging Strikes play into the Flutter Mane with the Urshifu, right? And then next turn, you can always just Bleak Wind Storm the Koraidon there. But of course, if they have a Lunala, then you have to watch out for the Wide Guard support, and this is also where like Taunt is really useful. So if you do run into like those Lunala teams that are going to try and click Wide Guard, you have to click Taunt, right? So this way they can't do that, and then after that, you can just kind of pin those slots there with your Calyrex and your Urshifus for that matter. Chenpao Urshifu is always just going to be a very, very good solid combination. Same thing with the Ogerpon here, with the Chenpao, also going to do tons of damage. You have a nice little Fire, Water, Grass core going here with the Urshifu and Ogerpon there. So all in all, pretty solid team. You have ways to help you get around the Trick Room matchup because, again, who's going to be thriving in the Trick Room? Usually the Calyrex teams, right? But this is where your Wide Guard is going to be useful. This is where Encore and Taunt is going to be useful as well. So if they do go for Trick Room, then what you can do is you can Taunt the Redirector, and then after that, you can Encore the Trick Room user after that. So this way, they end up flipping their Trick Room there. So, to each their own, depending on the circumstances. But, of course, you have a lot of play that you can do with Encore and Taunt there. Okay, but let's go into the pace and let's show you the EV spreads for this. All right, here are the spreads here for this one. So the Zamazenta, again, I just wanted to go max speed on the Zamazenta and then just go almost full max defense on the Impish Nature. Again, I wanted to still keep the even number there, so I just went with 244 instead and then just to dump the remaining points into HP. We've used the Zamazenta set before in Regulation G, and it's still pretty good even right now. This is just to get the best value out of your body press and then still be able to outspeed other Zamazentas that aren't max speed, so I felt like it was worth it. The Calyrex, same kind of spread as the previous one, but the Life Orb, again, just a little bit of Life Orb optimization, but still keeping it at Timid 252. And then the Tornadus here, that Timid 92 investment, that's just going to let you outspeed Timid Kyogres. So that lets you hit 157, which outspeeds Timid Kyogre at 156. And then the bulk there with 212 HP, 188 defense is just for the Urshifu Surging Strikes Terra Water stuff. So I felt like that was pretty good bulk to be able to do that, and then just dump the remaining points. 1 point in Special Attack, 2 points in SpDef, and then that's pretty much it. The Ogerpon Heartflame is a little bit of a different set this time around here. So what I decided to do with this one is just make it a little bit faster, putting it at 154 speed. So what that lets you do is under your own Tailwind, that will outspeed a +1 Flutter Mane. So this way you get to hit it first with an Ivy Cudgel. And then after that, just hitting that first bump in the Adamant Nature with 76. So that's also pretty good there. You get a +2 bonus there. And again, if you don't know what EV bumps are and you're trying to get better at competitive Pokemon and you're still trying to figure out your EV spreads, make sure you comment below what are EV bumps and I will reply to you and I will explain it to you. But otherwise, we have a whole video explaining what are EV bumps there, link in our video description below. So go ahead and give that a watch. But if you don't know what the bumps are, make sure you comment what are EV bumps and I will respond to you. Alright, but besides that, the speed tier and then the attack stat, the 188 HP and 52 defense, that's also enough to survive Urshifu, Terra Water, Surging Strikes there, and then just dumping that last point there into special defense there. It's a very common Ogerpon Hard Flame spread, and this along with the other one is the two that I use the most depending on the team that I want to put it on. And then of course, the Chien-Pao and the Urshifu, they're both Sash and Scarf Mons there, so I just keep those at 252, 252 there. Alright, so that's rental number 3. So now we're moving on into the 4th one. Next up here, we have a Miraidon Ho-Oh team. So basically, Ho-Oh is coming into Regulation I in an interesting spot here because, you know, by itself, Ho-Oh just was very, very underwhelming. You almost never saw it in Regulation G, but now in Regulation I, when you can have a second restricted, all of a sudden it looks pretty good because it has a pretty decent matchup into Zamazenta, and it also has a pretty solid matchup into Koraidon because, again, if it's typing, you resist both of their stabs. You get to resist the fighting move, you know, from both Koraidon and Zamazenta, and then at the same time, usually they run a fire move, whether it be like, you know, Flame Charge or Flare Blitz, you resist that as well. And then for Zamazenta, they have a steel move, whether it be Behemoth Bash or Heavy Slam, it doesn't matter, you get to resist that as well. And then you do super effective damage right back at it with Sacred Fire into Zam or Brave Bird into the Koraidon, right? So Ho is all of a sudden looking pretty good into those particular matchups. And then at the same time, you have Grimmsnarl yet again, which I think pretty much can go into the S tier almost at this point as far as like non-restricteds. You already know if you've been following us in Sword and Shield, we love this thing. It was on 80% of our teams back then. And now all of a sudden in Regulation I, it's in a really, really good spot with screens and of course Thunder Wave or Foul Play Spirit Break pressure here. This one has Spirit Break because we're going to go for the dark damage coming from our Urshifu single strike over here. But at the same time, again, we still have Miraidon, Iron Hands, and Furgraph. Very, very good trio, of course, that can do well into pretty much many different kinds of matchups. And the one thing that Ho-Oh can do now is it gets access to Tailwind, right? So this is your Tailwind setter as opposed to something like Whimsicott, okay? And then, you know, Sacred Fire has the chance to burn, right? So you can do pretty big damage into something like, you know, a Chien-Pao or whatever, a Zacian or some other physical mon. Burn it, they don't do damage. And then even into like an Iron Hands, right? You can even have the chance at burning that. And then at the same time, you know, you have Regenerator. So you can always pivot in and out. And behind screens, you're not going to really be taking that much damage. And then Regenerator just lets you get a little bit more health back over time. And then, of course, Furgraph here. Again, another Trick Room setter here for your squad that can set it up for Iron Hands or reverse it against another Trick Room. And, you know, just Furgraph, again, just being able to deny priority moves into Miraidon or just in general is really, really solid overall. So, you know, typical leads here, you can do like, you know, Grimmsnarl Miraidon. You can do Grimmsnarl Urshifu or Iron Hands Urshifu, you know, just fake out. Wicked Blow is always just really, really strong. Can't protect against fake outs. And then it's just free damage from Wicked Blow coming from there, right? And then, again, Urshifu, you know, has a pretty decent matchup into the Shadow Riders and both Calyrexes. You know, you're pretty much forcing them to Terra, and then from there, maybe you can capitalize it if you force them to Terra a little bit too early. But ideally, you know, just good solid breaker damage coming off from our Urshifu over here. So overall, I think it's a pretty cool idea, you know, for Ho-Oh to be on a Miraidon team. Other ideas that you can do with Ho-Oh later on is you can put this with Koraidon, so you can have a little bit more damage in the sun, just like kind of what those Japanese teams were doing. You can also do some Ho-Oh Terapagos teams, just because, again, with Pagos being so weak against Koraidon and Zamazenta, you can have Ho-Oh now just take care of those matchups instead. But I think Ho-Oh Miraidon teams are going to rise a little bit more just because of some recent play. But, you know, here's one team to try out. So let us know how you do if you do decide to try this out. So let's go into the EV spread so you can take a look at those. Alright, so here we are with the spreads here. So basically, the Miraidon, Grimmsnarl, Iron Hands, and Furgraph, they're the same spreads that you've seen from the other teams. So again, if you want to know what they do, just, you know, rewind the video a little bit. But it's the same exact spreads here, you know, just so I can save some time here. in making, these 10 rentals. But the one thing I will speak about is at least the Ho-Oh spread. It's a very common spread, actually. With that speed investment, just a little bit of speed under Tailwind allows you to outspeed the Shadow Rider there. Adamant 236 just gets you to the third benchmark, the third bump, and then just a ton of HP there, pretty much just maxing it out, and then 1 point in both the defense and the special def. And that's really all it is. It's a very basic Ho-Oh spread there, but it's a nice starter spread if you don't know exactly how to EV at Ho-Oh there, okay? But that's pretty much it for this one, so let's move on to the next rental. Next up here, this is our Lunala Koraidon team. It's another variant of Lunadon. There's so many variants of this running around now, but very standard idea with the Koraidon and the Photosynthesis mons here, especially with Chi-Yu again. So Fluttermane, Chi-Yu, easy partners to have with Koraidon, just because, again, Photosynthesis will give you the speed boost, and then Chi-Yu, of course, does well in the sun, and then it's a decent partner into Lunala because, again, it's for the mirror, and then it'll also allow your own Lunala to do pretty decent damage here. Now, remember back in Regulation G, Koraidon teams typically had some trouble with Ice Rider teams. They always needed like a 6 slot to help them take care of that. Usually it was something like, Glacier with Iron Defense Body Press. It was slower in Trick Room, so you get to outspeed the the Ice Rider. You use stuff like Umbreon or some other makeshift Zamazenta like a Bastiodon to help you out with White Guard over there. But usually, or even a Ditto was also used there, and that's actually what we have here. But now that you have Lunala, and now that you can have access to Wide Guard, so now the Calyrexes can't really click Glacial Lance anymore. They have to go for the suboptimal high horsepower or close combat, whatever it is they have. It's the single target move, and then now you're in a much better spot as opposed to facing spread damage coming from Glacial Lance there, right? So, and then at the same time, if they want to bring their Calyrex into Trick Room and, potentially try and sweep you, then this is where you can bring in Ditto. You get to copy the free Calyrex, and then just go from there, right? And Ditto also here with the safety goggles, just because you can't put the sash on the Ditto because it's on the Fluttermane. And then from here, the Fluttermane Chi-Yu, always a pretty good lead that you can do, just stuff like Icy Wind and Heat Wave, or Icy Wind Overheat, blow something up. Chi-Yu pretty good into, Zamazentas and Lunalas and Calyrexes just because of its typing and the type of move it gets. Overheat in the sun is really, really strong. And then, of course, Brute Bonnet. Again, another Pokemon, with just redirection support. And it can just help you spore things. And then, just Seed Bomb into like Urshifus and whatnot. So it's another pretty standard way to build this. Sometimes you'll see Ursaluna onto teams like this, or even Indeedee. But we like the Ditto variant over here. And, this also, in terms of the item choices here, we got this one from Miggle. He was able to use the 6 and, just do relatively well in the tournament. He used our spreads, I believe. The only difference now is he just put the goggles on the Ditto, whereas I had like the Covert Cloak on it. And a Life Orb on Koraidon, but Clear Amulet is actually just pretty good into the mirror, which you'll be facing a lot more now. So I figured, might as well just go with the Amulet here and just put the goggles on the Ditto just to help you get around Amoonguss shenanigans, right? If you have to, or like another Brute Bonnet, for example. So I figured the goggles was a decent choice there. So shout outs to Miggle for that. But yeah, anyway, so standard leads here. You can even just do like Lunala Brute Bonnet, or you can do Koraidon Fluttermane, and then you just go for Icy Wind, speed control, and just hard hitting, flare blitzes or close combats and whatnot. You can even do like Brute Bonnet Lunala, set up Trick Room, spore things, and then just potentially sweep or deal a bunch of damage, and then let stuff like Koraidon and or Fluttermane come up in the end game and finish things off here, right? But again, the thing with Ditto, it requires like pretty good positioning. You don't always have to copy a restricted. Sometimes you could copy something like a Whimsicott and then just get Prankster Tailwind and then just get the speed advantage that way. So, you don't only have to copy a restricted, right? So that's just one of the many tools that you can get with a Ditto over here, right? So, we use it wisely. It's not going to come to every game, obviously, but when it does, it can really make a huge difference, especially when you can get another third restricted onto your team, okay? Let's show some EV spreads over here. All right, so here's a peep at our EV spreads here. So the Brute Bonnet set is the same set as the previous Brute Bonnet that I had on that other team, so feel free to look back at that part of the video if you want to know what those spreads are doing. Otherwise, Chi-Yu and Fluttermane are very, very standard. The Lunala on this one has 92 speed investment. That's just for like Pelipper speed tier there. Modest 180 is just another benchmark over there for the Lunala, and then 220 HP, again optimal HP number for grassy terrain recovery if I needed it, and then just a little bit of defense because that's just basically what was left over here. The Koraidon is a jolly 252-252 set, more or less the same thing that we've been using for the other Koraidon team there, and then Ditto is a relaxed nature, just a ton of HP and defense there. And then of course 0 speed investment, just because we have hopes of copying things in Trick Room. Otherwise, if you don't like that, you can always just go like HP and speed if you want to, do some other ideas with Ditto. But if you like Ditto, then and you don't really like Fluttermane, you can put the sash on the Ditto and then opt for something like an Indeedee over there, or even like an Ursaluna in that slot there. And then now you can add a little bit more to your Trick Room mode because now you have Lunala, Brute Bonnet, and the Ursaluna over here. So if you want to explore that idea, you can definitely do that. Otherwise, give this one a go because we liked it when we were testing it, and that's why we're making it into a rental. Okay, but that's it. So let's look and continue on with our next rental. Next up in our rental teams, it is Swordfish here. So Kyogre and Zacian are making a comeback yet again in Regulation I. We knew how strong this combo was back in Sword and Shield here, and now we get to bring them back again in Regulation I here. So usually you'll see teams with this kind of core. Sometimes they'll even use Incineroar along with Amoonguss here as far as like their backbone here, or sometimes you'll even see Rillaboom instead of the Amoonguss here. But we like the Amoonguss, we like the Mushroom, we like Clicking Spore, and we like redirection support and healing. So and of course it also gives us a decent mod to play in the Trick Room game, so we liked it here as well. And the Mushroom in Rain makes it so that reduce fire weakness, and now you're just mainly worried about the ice or the flying weakness, and that's why you have Terra Water over there. But anyway, you know what you're getting with Tailwind and Kyogre. You know what you're getting with the Water Spout pressure. Of course, Terra Grass is what we like. Kyogre, again, one things to worry about is again Miraidon stuff and Raging Bolt. But Zacian and or Chien-Pao takes care of those relatively well, which is why they're here on this team. And then Urshifu, of course, just does a ton of damage in the rain. Just you already do enough, with the Surging Strikes without the rain. Now you add the rain, and now you add Chien-Pao at the same time. So now Urshifu looking really good there in terms of like big solid damage there. Zacian with Substitute, we like that just because it gives a little bit more play against Intimidate, cycling purposes, and then of course helps a little bit more into the Trick Room matchup just because, again, the turn they go for it, we can click Substitute and Protect, and we burn 2 turns. So, we like the Sword Dog with Substitute here. But other than that, a strong Steel type in the rain has always done well realistically in VGC. And, we've seen stuff like Gambit, Goldango in that slot. A Steel type in the rain has always been historically good, and Zacian is no different into that idea as well there. So think about Miraidon that can also put pressure into Kyogre teams, right? Now Zacian can help you there because you have the super effective play rough. If they go Terra Fairy, then they're just weak to the Behemoth Blade. By the way, if you're sometimes there's always going to be people asking why is Zacian Ironhead. This is the uncrowned version. When it becomes crowned, it will turn into Behemoth Blade, just in case we have some people unfamiliar with that interaction with Zacian. But yeah, just in case, I always get that question sometimes, but sometimes they don't play Sword and Shield. But anyway, but that's it. So, Chien-Pao Urshifu, Chien-Pao Zacian, pretty good ideas there. You could always do Amoonguss Zacian, Amoonguss Urshifu there for a little bit more balance idea where you have a supportive mon and a damage dealer. And then you can even do like Tornadus Ursh with Kyogre Zacian in the back if you want to go like full on offense. But lots of ideas that you can consider. But ultimately, it's just all about positioning your Kyogre well enough where that you can clean up endgames with Water Spouts, and also, make some trades early on with something like Zacian or Urshifu, and then the Ogre can come in and finish things off. Or the reverse way, and, you can use the Kyogre to get rid of some threats early on, and then let Zacian and Urshifu, just finish things off there in the endgame there, okay? Anyway, so that's the rental, so let's go ahead and let's peep the EV spreads here. Alright, so here we go here. So let's start here with the Zacian. This is a very common Jolly set that you'll find, but it's something that just works just as like a little starter set. That 172 speed investment just allows you to outspeed the base 135s at their speed natures, right? So imagine Chien-Pao, Fluttermanes and whatnot, or even like Miraidons and Koraidons. whether they're jolly or timid, you will outspeed them either way. So that's the benefit of Zacian, right? You get to outspeed those things, and only really the Calyrex is faster than you, besides anything that wants to be like Scarfed. After that, you just max the attack and then just dump the rest into leftovers HP, and that's pretty much it for the Zacian, right? The Urshifu, again, also with the Scarf and the Chenpao, they're just 252, 252 sets, pretty standard and self-explanatory. The Amoonguss Relax Nature set here with that 236 HP and defense here, we've used that throughout the regulation, throughout the years actually, okay? Sometimes you mix it up a little bit, but with this set, again, you are able to take a Chenpao Ice Attack or a Glacial Lance from a Calyrex. And then from here, the Tornadus EV spread, that's the same one that we've used before. On the other team, again, you're just meant to outspeed timid Kyogres and survive Urshifu Surging Strikes. And then the Kyogre itself here, it's a slower, modest set here just to have a little bit of bulk on its side. Modest 156 is the benchmark there. And then that speed investment just lets you outspeed like timid Pelipper stuff. Not that the Pelipper is like a threat here, but again, it can put out some pressure into Urshifu and Amoonguss here. So, again, just having a little bit of speed on Ogre is okay. And then from here, the 132 HP, 60 defense is just a little bit of bulk there. 192 HP investment. 192 HP stats just gives you that, grassy terrain recovery number there. So you could easily just do modest 252, 252 with this Kyogre there, but I like a little bit of bulk on my Ogres. So I just went with that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Some very standard EVs for a Swordfish here. It's a good starter set, for the beginning of the format. Maybe you make changes later on, but at the very least, try this set first. But let's move on to the next rental. Next up, we have a Miraidon Lunala team over here. So again, we're bringing back Grimmsnarl Screens ideas here. And the idea now is like, you don't really need Photograph anymore per se. You can just use your Lunala as your Electric Seed Trick Room setter here. And then just, again, more wide guard support for Miraidon just to help you into the Ice Rider matchup. But all in all, again, it's a very bulky Trick Room setter that can be supported with wide guard. It can dish out decent damage with Moongeist Beam and Psyshock. This is I believe, the Sushej variant. I was looking on like LabMouse about a while back, and I saw this variant and what he was using, and I decided, you know what, I like this 6. We're going to make this a rental. So shoutouts to Sushej for, debuting this first. This is just our variant and our version of it. But again, it's still the same Miraidon Grimmsnarl stuff. This time we have Foul Play back again. And then from here, Iron Hands is pretty standard. Same with Urshifu and Ogerpon here. Now, the one thing I will say with the I've been going back and forth with the Sash variant along with Close Combat here. But I think Taunt on the Urshifu is actually pretty good here. Because again, if you can taunt, some redirection mons or like a Trick Room setter that has no redirection, it's non-prankster taunt too, right? So I like that a lot. And under Trick Room and Screens, we can play this Urshifu slower and bulkier, which is what I was doing with this. And then from here, you know what you're getting with Ogerpon. Again, another Pokemon that can do well in Trick Room and also behind screens. Lift the tail to tail by taking big hits and then dealing big damage back with Ivy Cudgel and or Wood Hammer. So this is just another variant of playing a defensive Miraidon team, relying on Grimmsnarl Screens. But again, Grimmsnarl Lunala is pretty good. Grimmsnarl Miraidon, Grimmsnarl plus any of these 6 actually is actually not too bad, because you can always switch in Miraidon in the end game, or as a little pivot move there. You can also do like Miraidon Lunala, just go for Volt Switch, go for Trick Room, bring in Iron Hands, and then you're just good from there, right? And then if they have like another Ursaluna, you can just click Wide Guard, and then they can't click Earthquake into you. They can play around it by clicking Headlong Rush, but this is also why you have the Bug Terra on the Iron Hands over there. So, but anyway, nice solid defensive team that can deal out a pretty decent amount of damage. So if you like this variant, you can give this a go, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the EV spreads here. Okay, so here we are here. So the one thing with Lunala on this team, you notice the EV spreads are a little bit different. I figured just to max the special attack is a little bit more valuable here, just because we can't have any boost modifiers with something like Powered Meteor Beam. So I figured just maxing the attack will at least let you put out some decent damage here with Moongeist Beam and or Psyshock. And then from there, just a little bit of leftovers going into Spidef and 1 point in speed and defense. Miraidon, we're still timid. We still like timid Miraidon. And then after that, Grimmsnarl here is still the same set. The Iron Hands also is still the same set. The Ogerpon is also the same EV spread that you saw in the first team in the video. And then this Urshifu, now you see that it's a little bit slower. It's actually a little bit bulkier, and it's Adamant 156 going for the benchmark. Basically, that speed tier is just for Pelipper speed creeping And then Adamant 156 is the benchmark. 132 HP is for the Rillaboom terrain that they may want to bring against this team. Other than that, I just dumped the rest into special defense there. And you know, just it's just a bulky Urshifu behind screens can actually survive a lot. So don't be afraid and you know, use it because again, with the screen support and also fake out pressure with Iron Hands, Urshifu with the Mystic Water can actually deal out a lot of damage, and it can put you in position later on where things like Miraidon and Lunala can finish the job once you made some equal trades with the Urshifu and set up your screens. Okay. But after that, you know, you can also just consider stuff like Heart Flame and Lunala, and you know, just redirection, set up Trick Room, and then you know, you can bring in Iron Hands for whatnot. You can even just lead Miraidon Iron Hands, you know, just right off the rip and just go from there. Otherwise, Grimmsnarl Iron Hands, Urshifu Iron Hands, these are all good leads that you can do on a lot of different teams here. Okay, because again, fake out pressure is really good with Surging Strikes, and then just fake out screens on one turn, and then set up screens on another turn, and then let Miraidon come in, boost the Iron Hands damage, and then just, you know, go from there, right? So, and then at the end, you know, once you have your screens up, then Lunala and Iron Hands, if anything, just becomes relatively hard to remove, especially with the Assault Vest here. Okay, so that's it for this variant. Let's move on to the next rental. Next up, we have a Terapagos squad here with Calyrex Shadow Rider. So maybe not the most exciting team, obviously, but this is one that has been successful as far as like the last month or so leading up to this point here. Shoutouts to Yomasi, by the way, you know, aka Oatmeal, for making the rental for us. But the Sable idea with Will-O-Wisp on the Calyrex now allows it to be both offensive and supportive. Obviously, with the Sable, you know, you're just, you know, canceling out like a very important move coming from something like a Koraidon or a Zamazenta that wants to click body press or close combat collision course into the Terapagos. You can disable that, and now you can just really set up in its face by setting up all these Calm Minds, right? And again, when you Terra Terapagos, you get to blow up terrain, you get to blow up weather, and then, you know, have spread damage coming from Terra Starstorm over here. You have the tools, you have all the tools you need to be able to set it up. You've got double fake out pressure. You've got redirection support with the Ogre Pond over here. You've got Flutter Mane with Taunt and Thunder Wave here. Sometimes they also include Icy Wind here without Protect, but I like Protect, so that stays here. And it's a booster energy Flutter Mane there because we got the Sash on the Calyrex. And, you know, a very timely Will-O-Wisp against something like an Ice Rider is very important. It's very punishing too, if you can be able to do that. Otherwise, you know, this is like all about supporting the Pagos and setting up those Calm Minds, and then from there, being able to click Terra Starstorm and, you know, potentially sweeping from there. So it plays a little bit slower, right? Obviously, but you have some tools to help you set this up. Sometimes you can set up multiple Calm Minds successfully just because the opponent can't really break you, especially when you have like your shell, your leftovers, and the Rillaboom terrain getting you all that recovery. So yeah, anyway, so if you like Pagos, I guess you could use something like this. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure there's going to be like some other variants later on. Like we mentioned, you could definitely try Ho-Oh on teams like this, because again, Ho-Oh is pretty good against both the Zamazenta and the Koraidon matchup, which are two Pokemon that Terapagos does not want to be dealing with altogether. Okay, but from here, let's go ahead and show you the EV spreads. All right, so starting here with the Terapagos. So again, the 172 HP investment is again boosting it to 192 HP, which is another optimal number for leftovers and Rillaboom Grassy Terrain Recovery. Then you see that we have 68 speed. Again, with this under Thunder Wave from Flutter Mane into another Shadow Rider, you're just able to outspeed it, which is really, really nice. And then you notice that we're Bold Nature with 164 defense. A lot of the defensive investment on this. This is to survive a Terra Stellar Urshifu close combat after a -1 Intimidate from Incineroar. The Flutter Mane here, that speed investment just puts it to 190. That lets you outspeed the 135s that aren't speed natured. And then from there, the bulk just lets you survive Urshifu Surging Strikes as well as the Chien-Pao Ice Attacks. The Cornerstone is pretty standard with 252. Same thing with the Calyrex. Now that we're timid, we don't have the Life Orb, we can just go full 252, 252. The Incin, that's a very familiar set as well with the Impish 188 defense with max HP. That's your Urshifu damage calc as well. And then this Rillaboom EV spread, this one with 252 HP and 204 special defense with the EV, that lets you survive a Miraidon Draco Meteor under their terrain. And then from there, the Adamant 36, that's just, your first benchmark in the attacking stat there. Okay, so yeah, it's a pretty bulky team. Again, with the Rillaboom and Incineroar just going for fake outs and the Ogerpon redirecting things, all trying to enable the Terapagos there, right? So we're just protecting the setup and making it a little bit difficult for the opponent to get to the Pagos because you have to, just set up those fake outs and then you have the redirection. This is why Snarl is really good against a team like this, just because, again, you're going to get crippled, your special attackers, right? This is why you need to, protect first and disable that Snarl, bait it out. And then from there, your Pagos can freely start setting up those Calm Minds after you've been able to get around the Snarl stuff. Okay, but that's this rental. So now we'll move on to the next rental team. All right, next up is yet another Miraidon Grimmsnarl Screen Lunala squad here, but this is the Ursaluna variant, and this is another team where Incineroar is coming here. So actually, this variant is you're seeing it right now in Milwaukee Regionals. It's doing relatively well at the time of this recording. So again, the whole idea with this is you've got Instant Grimmsnarl, typical Sword and Shield lead in the Dynamax era. You're able to slow the game down and be super bulky with your screens again with Grimmsnarl. Again, just along with Incineroar and Parting Shot, you're just able to mitigate so much damage here. And then you're just able to position your Ursaluna to come in as well after a Parting Shot here. So again with Lunala, this time we have Terra Fairy Moonblast, which is pretty good against, dark types that want to deal, dark damage into Lunala. And then Urshifu, again, with the Mystic Water here, just doing so much damage, especially behind screens and fake out pressure with Incineroar. So what you can do here is, again, the same kind of leads. You could do like Grimmsnarl, Lunala, set up your screens, do a bunch of chip damage, pivot in Ursaluna after that, and then just start sweeping. You could even do instant Lunala leads, fake out Trick Room, then Parting Shot into Ursaluna, and then get ready to sweep from there. Or you could do, like Miraidon, Lunala, Volt Switch, Trick Room, and then get Ursaluna in there, right? Nice, decent combination. I've always liked Volt Switch Trick Room setters. Like, we used to see that with Regieleki a little bit sometimes back in Sword and Shield, and we're seeing that a little bit more now with the Lunala Miraidon combinations here. But ideally, again, Ursaluna is almost like a restricted, right? Because again, once it's got its Guts Flame Orb going, it's going to do so much damage. And then, of course, the patented Wide Guard Earthquake idea is really, really good. Because again, what that allows you to do is, you protect your own Ursaluna from something like Glacial Lance from another Calyrex. And then at the same time, when you click Earthquake, you don't get to harm your own Lunala because, again, Wide Guard protects you against that as well. Other than that, Ursaluna just always has hard-hitting Facades and Headlong Rushes for single target move. And then from there, what you're getting with Incineroar, just being able to, mitigate a lot of damage, burn things, Parting Shot, weaken them even more. Grimmsnarl makes it so that you can live and, click those Parting Shots. And then from there, Miraidon, can just clean things up in the end game especially, right? You have a lot of breaker damage, you have a lot of damage mitigation here. So lots of ways that you can set up both modes, whether it be the Trickery mode or just the balance mode with Grimmsnarl, and just go from there, okay? But yeah, let's just go ahead and show you our EV spreads for this variant. Alright, so honestly from here, it's the same kind of EV spreads that we've been showcasing and using. It's nothing new here. We've seen that Lunala set again before. That's just for Rillaboom Grassy Terrain Recovery with that 220 HP investment, putting it at 240. Max special attack there. Again, we don't have the benefit of having, Meteor Beam Power Herb stuff, so just max your special attack in this case just to get a little bit more value out of your special attacking stat. And then, the Instant is the same set along with Grimmsnarl here. The one thing with the Ursaluna, that's just optimal HP for the Flame Orb chip. You're hitting the third benchmark in your Brave Nature stat there, and then the rest just goes into special defense there. We have seen the Assault Vest variant with Miraidon and Snarl there, which is a pretty cool tech. But I also still think Choice Specs is a pretty good idea to still have on something like this there. And even the Mystic Water over the Sash here. So it's up to you how you want to play it. But ideally, this is one kind of way that you can do it. Otherwise, the regional variant that a few players have been using is also pretty good as well. All right. But yeah, let's move on into the next and I believe final rental. All right, coming up on our 10th and final rental here. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we had 10 rentals here. So shout out to Superbeard for making this rental for us, loaning us his slot there for another Calyrex team. So basically, this is a Zacian Rain squad that also takes advantage of the Calyrex Ice Rider being able to be used on something like this. So Calyrex, along with Urshifu, Pelipper. Now you get weather control without having to commit a restricted slot. Pelipper can come into pretty much all those Koraidon games. And then from there, you know what you're getting with Calyrex Amoonguss, being able to set up Trick Room and whatnot, and potential Spore Pressure. Just watch out for Miraidon teams. You do have Raging Bolt on this team, right? Along with Booster Energy here. So, you know, Bolt Beam coverage is just really, really solid. Again, Calyrex has a little bit of a harder time breaking through some of the bulky water types. This is where you can have a Raging Bolt here just to be able to deal super effective damage into those two as well. Zacian, again, can also just come in and start clicking, you know, Behemoth Blades and Sacred Swords and Play Roughs. Again, another good, solid damage dealer in the rain. That can do very, very well. We've seen this before on the Swordfish idea, and I think it makes sense here with Pelipper Urshifu as well. And then, you know, what you're getting with the Wide Guard with the Pelipper. Again, another support that you don't have to commit a restricted slot to, right? And that's the whole point of this, having Pelipper on your team, right? Where you don't need to commit a Lunala restricted to be able to have access to Wide Guard, right? And along with weather control. And then this Urshifu has coaching, right? So now you can coach the Zacian and the Calyrex Ice Rider. You know, make sure that they get even more damage. This is how you balance out Intimidates into Zacian, right? Where you just lead the Urshifu and, you know, go for the instant, or just coach yourself back up and then start dealing big damage, you know, especially after a switch out where you can't really get your Behemoth Blade boost. I'm sorry, your Intrepid Sword boost. You can coach yourself and then you kind of get it back anyway in that sense, right? But Raging Bolt is still a decent mon, right? It's seen a decrease in usage just because, you know, in Regulation G, it functioned as like a secondary restricted, more or less, or like another balance mon that could be slapped on into anywhere. A lot of teams have dropped the Raging Bolt and have been able to add a secondary restricted, but still Bolt is a very, very good mon. And it works here. You have Thunderclap Pressure, especially for free chip damage, put things in range of Glacial Lance, or put things in range of Behemoth Blade, or even put things in range of Surging Strikes here. So it is still a pretty decent mon that you can bring into a lot of different games. And if there is more Koraidon teams, then, you know, Raging Bolt is also pretty good there just because of photosynthesis, right? Especially, you know, if you've already lost your booster energy boost, you can always just pivot in and out and still get it back there in that sense, okay? But that's it. That's this squad here. It's a little bit more ambitious, right, but versus the other ones, but I still think it works. But yeah, let's just show you the EV spreads and get you out of here. All right, so for these EVs, the Zacian is pretty much the same EV spread as the other one. Again, just being able to outspeed the base 135s that are speed natured, and that's the whole point, right? Because you get to outspeed them without necessarily needing like a Choice Scarf or Tailwind or whatever. The Calyrex this time is brave natured with 0 speed. You know, just I felt like it was a pretty good number to hit here. And then, of course, Urshifu and then Pelipper are still 252, 252 sets. The Raging Bolt here with the 188 HP and 132 defense. Again, this is just for, you know, your Rillaboom recovery number. And then this much bulk gives you that very, very favorable calc to survive the Chen-Pao attacks, as well as the Calyrex Ice Rider Glacial Lance. And then the 180 special attack is, again, that benchmark for modest nature. And then you don't really need any speed on this thing, right? Because you're playing in Trick Room. So this is also going to be pretty slow, and then still just going to do pretty solid boosted Thunderbolt damage, as is Dragon Pulse there, right? But yeah, anyway, so that's it. So let's do one last final recap and summary and of our teams, and let's just get you out of here. All right, so that's it. Those are all 10 of our teams. So give one of them a go. Let us know how you do. Hopefully we've given you a decent spread to select from, and hopefully some of you guys will find at least 1 or 2 teams that you're interested in trying out. And again, this is all meant for, you know, starter purposes. They've all been tested extensively. They've done relatively well, you know, in the ladder play as well as the tournament play. So feel free to pick up any of these. And, you know, again, the point here is just to, you know, save you guys some time from making them, because we've been able to provide these teams for years now, right? And 10 rental teams, like I said in the beginning, is the most we've ever had. So hopefully, you know, you use at least one of them. But you can kind of see where the format is based on how I've been able to make these teams. You know, I've been using a lot of Grimmsnarl on these teams, right? Just because I think Grimmsnarl is really good right now, because again, there's so much restricted putting out damage that you want to be able to at least mitigate some of that damage, and Grimmsnarl can do that for you. As opposed to, you know, stuff like, you know, Tornadus and Whimsicott, which are still very, very good, but I'm just favoring the screens variant right now just because it ruins so many damage counts, right? Other than that, yeah, the Koraidon Lunala teams are looking good. The Miraidon stuff is also pretty strong. And don't sleep on underutilized restricteds like this Ho-Oh right here, right? I think it can do well into those Miraidon Zamazenta squads there, so don't sleep on Ho-Oh by any means. And even Ursaluna, right? Like, I think Ursaluna, we've seen how this thing can do in the Victory Road Tours on those Koraidon teams. I think it also does well on these Miraidon teams as well. And like I said, right now, you're looking at Milwaukee Regionals, and this variant, which is being used by a few players, is doing relatively well right now as of the time of this recording. So we'll see what happens. But hopefully you like at least something that we've given you here. And if, again, you're interested in building something on your own and you need some help and you're not sure where to go or what to do, feel free to reach out to us. If you sign up for coaching on the Tier 3 sub, you can reach out to us after that. And then we can plan a team building session. We've done quite a few already with some people. So you could be next if you're trying to go to another regional, or if you need something for, a League Cup or ladder play or whatnot. If you got an idea that you're not really sure how to flesh out, we can help you that as well. So make sure you sign up for Tier 3 on the channel. And then from there, feel free to reach out on Discord. Okay, don't forget to join the Discord. That's just free altogether, right? We have more than 1,200 plus members. So if you're looking for people to spar with or bounce ideas off of, our Discord is pretty good with that as well. All right, but that's it for now, folks. Enjoy the rentals. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.